right, here we are. Dolphins are 7-3, rocketing to the Jets game. This Friday is going to come so fast, and it's a big, big game for us. I've done my best since I started this thing to be as honest as I can. I'm not always accurate, but I think my accuracy is pretty high. I've been saying a bunch of things. A lot of people have been saying other things. And I'm finding the media is just so, it's very odd how they just can't see the elephant in the room for whatever reason. They don't understand what's going on with the Dolphins offense. And there's a load of talk. Now, some people, they want the hopium pimps. People who just say everything is great. Dolphins, top to bottom, every single roster, every single unit, every single position group, they are awesome. But that's not how it works. The only teams I could ever remember in the history of the NFL having even close to that, and they weren't, was Dallas Cowboys and San Fran in the 90s. Other than that, every team's had its strengths and its weaknesses. But when you listen to these hopium pimps, they have this team as being awesome from top to bottom, except week one when Fangio sucked and defense sucked. Now that he's awesome, and so that's how it goes. So I'm going to give you some clear indications, clear facts to show you what the problem is. And it's not an insolvable problem. The Dolphins, the issue they had the last couple of weeks, the issue they had this week with the Raiders, and they might have this week, there's areas where they can step it up, but it's a clear issue. And it's not McDaniel and Tua. The hopium pimps, because they can't actually evaluate fairly or accurately for whatever reason in a particular area, not saying that they don't do a good job in all areas, they put McDaniel and Tua in the firing line, and they shouldn't be. And they undervalue McDaniel and Tua and what Hill and Waddle are doing. And it's week after week. I said this was going to be a tough game against the Raiders. Most didn't. But lo and behold, it was a tough game again. I'm going to show you why. Just as I've said before, leading up to the game, as I've said through multiple weeks, it's very clear. We went against the Raiders. They are the 27th run defense. They give up 132 yards on the ground at 4.5 yards per carry. We ended up with about 99 yards, and we averaged 3.5 yards a carry for 28 rushes total. Mostert had 22 for 86 for 3.9. Why didn't we even get the average of the 27th worst run defense if everything is awesome? Was it A-Chain not being in? I don't think you can blame it on that. Was it Mostert? Mostert ran hard. He ran fast. You can't blame it on that. The only thing left you got is the blocking. Now, is the blocking doomed? No, you got Hunt in the wings. But clearly the blocking played a part. You can't blame McDaniel. He called 26 runs. You could blame him in certain situations, but then you got to ask yourself, why doesn't he run on 4th and 1 and 4th and 2 and 3, 3rd and 2 and 3rd and 3? We can't read his mind. But let's dig in further to some serious facts. If everybody on this offensive line was awesome and supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, like the hopium pimps are saying, then we should have ran the ball extremely well because we ran it enough. But what about the protection? Well, Tua had a fumble and an interception. We had a fumble by Hill, not Tyreek, but our tight end Julian Hill. So those 3 turnovers shot ourselves in the foot, but that is not the whole story. What about the protection? Well, I'm going to show you because I am getting fed up with the hopium pimps. Okay, so here, take a look at this wonderful graphic here. You can see premium stats from PFF. These are not their grading system. These are just facts, stats. You'll see Tua on the top and Dorian Thompson-Robinson, the Cleveland Browns quarterback who nobody knows because he is like, nobody knows him. But you'll see, starting from the left, the orange, Tua was under pressure 24.4% of the time. When blitzed, 12% of the time. Okay? Now, under pressure, Dorian Thompson, 17.8% of the time. When blitzed, 33% of the time. Now, you have to understand, he was blitzed 15 times. We were blitzed only 5. That means through his 41 passes, Tua, 36 of them had 4 rushers. Conversely, you can look at Dorian over here, and through 30 passes, he wasn't blitzed. So the pressure was dialed up higher, 3 times higher for Dorian than for the Miami Dolphins offense. They played off, they played zone coverage, they rushed 4 guys against our 5 offensive linemen. Still haven't done the blockers per pass, but I'll get to that. Attempts, 39-43 in the same ballpark. Now go over a little bit more. YPA, yards per attempt, the purple boxes, 8.3 to 3.8. They got the ball out super quick and super short, as you'll see. Tua doubled that, which is unbelievable, and talks about McDaniel's system, to his ability to throw the football, and Hill and Waddle's speed. Ace Per Head's betting software is the premier white label platform for bookies to manage their players and grow their sportsbook operation. Click the link in the description below to get set up in minutes. Ask for the Curtis promo and get a special introductory discount. But then you go to the next one, and you'll see bats and throwaways. Tua had 1 ball batted and 3 thrown away because the pressure was on. Okay, so that's 4 more pressures or interfered throws compared to Dorian, who had 0. Now, defensive pressures, we gave up 10. That's not a ton, although Brady freaked out 2 years ago when he had that. But they only gave up 8, Cleveland. We had 1 sack, they had 1 sack. But notice the time to throw, 2.37 and 2.15 for Dorian. Now, if you compare the offensive line, this is not the Cleveland offensive line. You know, both tackles have been replaced due to injury. They're some of the 2 of the worst in the league. But they only gave up 8 pressures and 1 sack. Are they awesome? Are they playing Pro Bowl? Are those tackles going to get big deals in every agency? I don't know. We'll see. Now, I showed you 2.37 time to throw and 2.15, and that's a sizable 2.22 seconds difference. You know, that's a sizable difference. But that is PFFs, which adds in sacks. When you look at the non-sack version here from Next Gen Stats, Dorian and Tua had the same time to throw, 2.34, which means the speed and release of the football aided huge in their protection. In fact, Joe Burrow was the next quickest at 1.14 difference, and then Kenny Pickett almost 1.6. Most of the league throws 2.5 or greater. Now, you'll say, where are you going? I think you kind of know, but let's check this stat out right here. Tua's Next Gen Stats against the Raiders, he was 22 for 26 for 219 yards and 2 TDs on quick passes, less than 2.5 seconds. But over 2.5 seconds, he was 6 for 13, 105 yards, and an int. The time on the clock created the problems. If Miami's line had to block most of the day, over 2.5 seconds like most of the league, like everybody but 2 or 3 teams, what would those stats look like? And you hear people saying, your offensive line's so much better than last year. We had 2.66 seconds time to throw last year. This year, we're 2.3 something in the low 2.3s. Don't you think that makes a difference? You could see the difference in the stats I told you. You could see the difference in all the analytics I showed you. If this offensive line was all pro, we would have run the football and we wouldn't have seen pressure at 2.5 seconds like we did in beyond. It's so clear. It's so basic. And whoever these hopium pimps are, either they just don't understand or they've got a dog in a game, a cat in a hunt, or something. And it's mind-boggling that the Dolphin fans are getting this kind of coverage. Now, the great news is Hunt will alter things. There's things schematically over in the block analysis of analytics that will be uplifted. I could get into that. I don't know if anybody, really wants to get into it now. I'll maybe do that later or even cares. But Hunt will play a major role. Now, what that final form is with him in there, is it going to be enough? We'll see. I said, the talk 2 weeks ago is, can we beat a good team? I said, that's not really what it's about. Can our offense beat a good defense? Why? It's not because Tua sucks. It's not because McDaniel sucks. It's not because Hill and Waddle suck. Although McDaniel has some things he needs to fix. Tua has some things he needs to fix. That's not saying they're perfect. But the biggest pink elephant I saw in the room is the blocking. The time to throw hides it. It's face paint on a crack whore. I've said that for years. It's not terrible. We can get certain things done when Hunt is in there with Connor and Teron. But we're struggling with our blockers on the exterior. We're struggling with our tight end blockers. This should be the story. And if you care about McDaniel, a lot of people love McDaniel. A lot of people love Tua. They're going to get put on the firing line. Because if all the hopium pimps are telling you this is all pro blockers and Jackson's going to get a big contract, then the only people left to blame is Tua and McDaniel. But ask yourself, is that the truth? It's very basic, and it's not to say we're doomed. This week against the Jets, if Hunt comes in, it won't look too bad. We can beat them. If he's not in this week, you're going to get the face paint off the crack whore, and it's going to be very, 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 very clear. And even the hopium pimps might have a hard time trying to hide it. I still think we'll win. Well, you never know. They play man. They get after you. They're not playing over the top. They're going to get the time to throw to that 2.45, 2.5, or even higher. And as it gets up that clock, each tenth of a second, the blocking gets more and more exposed. And this says Tua's release, his ability to move, is huge. McDaniel's ability to move these guys around. We had the same time to throw as a Cleveland, but we doubled their distance. That talks volumes about Hill and Waddle. That should be the talk. Hill, Waddle, Tua, and McDaniel are doing unbelievable things to mask the failings in some parts of this offensive line. But the hopium pimps will tell you something different. But I'm right week after week. Well, we will see. Curtis saying, thanks for stopping by. Catch you next time. Be well. Believe we're in this. Go Fins. Start building your own online sports book today by getting signed up with aceperhead.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.